Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here, coming at you with another video. I'm sorry if my voice sounds a little bit different, but as it turns out, I've been maybe streaming a little bit too much Monster Hunter Rise since the release of the PC version, and as such, my voice is a little bit spent. I'm definitely beginning to feel my age. I can no longer stream as much as I used to back in the day without suffering a couple of repercussions. So I'm sorry about that, but today we're going to have a bit of a more low-tone video. Hopefully you guys will still enjoy it. Now, today's topic is going to be cheating in Monster Hunter Rise, or any other video game for that matter, because I recently ran into a Twitter post that I then quote tweeted and expressed an opinion on, and a lot of people in the community came out and either expressed agreement with my opinion or disagreement with my opinion, which is normal, right? But one of the reasons why I wanted to bring up this particular video is because the people that disagreed with me, a lot of them said, number one, this doesn't affect you, and then number two, since this doesn't affect you, why exactly do you care? So the purpose of this video is to express that, because as someone who creates content for this community, as someone who tries to bring in as many people as possible to this community to enjoy the Monster Hunter franchise, I feel like, I should say a couple of things, because this not only can potentially affect me, it can also affect a lot of the people that I'm bringing into these games. So let's get started by showing you guys the actual Twitter post that I'm talking about. So this is a Twitter post by Banshee where she says, "Homeboy asking to play Monster Hunter Rise, but then he proudly pulls up that shit. Bruh." And then you see that there's a screenshot of an inventory that has 9,999 of every single consumable in the game, 9,999 of every single crafting material in the game, and so on and so forth. And like this, I've already heard that there's also mods for the game that allow you to generate god tier charms, naturally invalidating a lot of the grinding for charms as well, which I understand a lot of people don't like because of RNG and all of that stuff, but hey, it's basically a part of the game. Whether you like it or not, that's the way that the game was developed. And yes, in the PC side of things, you have the power to essentially modify it. As a matter of fact, this is not just a PC thing, which is another misconception that I tend to see in my comment sections, is that some people seem to believe that this only happens in PC and that PC is full of cheating players and all of that. And it's like, number one, there's a lot of people playing on PC that are not cheaters. It's not like every single player that has a PC is a cheater, okay? Number two, this type of stuff also happens in consoles, okay? It's a lot less prevalent, but it also happens in consoles. So when I'm talking about cheating in Monster Hunter Rise, I'm not talking about it, oh, now that we're on PC, the whole thing is full of cheaters. No, there were people cheating back in Monster Hunter World on PlayStation 4. There's even video evidence of it if you guys care to actually look for it, even from prominent content creators in the community. I'm not going to be calling anybody out because honestly, I don't care that much about that aspect of it because I never cross paths with those people. And in consoles, you generally don't tend to cross paths with a lot of the people that are doing the save modification and all of this stuff. As a matter of fact, back in the day, in like PlayStation 3 days, I remember people hacking Dragon's Dogma characters and Diablo 3 characters with modified attack values. I even remember when I exported my PC save of Borderlands 2 because I wanted to play on my PlayStation 3 with friends, and I was like, well, yeah, but I don't want to start from scratch, so I imported my save, and I was able to, convert the save to a workable format. But it was interesting that in the process of doing that, like the file that edited the save had all of these options, like, okay, do you want to have like this god tier gun? Do you want to have like the entire game complete? Do you want to? And I'm just like, no, I just want to export my save exactly the way that it is to put it on PlayStation 3, which I guess is one of the reasons why some people are doing this. But then they're maybe dialing the knob a little bit too far in the direction of just give me everything, right? But ultimately, I think it's important for people to understand this is not just a PC thing. This also happens on consoles, and just because this happens more on PC does not mean that everyone who is playing on PC is someone who is doing this. Now, let's talk about the part that it doesn't affect me. Why do I care? And it's like, in a way, you're kind of correct. If this was a single-player game, it wouldn't affect me, and I couldn't care less, because ultimately, anyone who purchased the game. You're entitled to do whatever the hell you want with it. You want to cheat, you want to like go one-shot monsters, you want to not grind anything at all, you can go ahead and you can do that, and it doesn't bother me one bit if this was a single-player game. The problem stems from the fact that Monster Hunter Rise is not a single-player game. And whereas a lot of you guys are like, well, okay, but I've already played it on the Switch and I want to import all of my stuff so that I can play without actually having to grind. Okay, but are you going to play multiplayer? What about the PC players that didn't play on the Switch, which is actually a considerable amount of people if the comment section of some of my videos is to be believed? So those players are basically going to potentially be matched up in lobbies with you, with your changed save file, depending on, at this point, it's all going to be about the moral compass of every player, because some of you guys are saying, well, I only did it for the consumables. Other ones are saying, well, I did it for everything because it's my game and I can do whatever the hell I want. So what happens now if a new hunter is playing low rank hub and you pop into his game with like end game, let's say Teostra set with critical boost, critical eye, friggin' weakness exploit, longsword, Chameleos longsword, and this dude is just trying to like kill a low rank Great Azuchi, and you go in there with your Teostra set and all of this stuff, and you just like Helmbreaker the Azuchi once, and the Azuchi gets literally deleted from the game. Like it doesn't, the file for the Great Azuchi doesn't even exist anymore. That's the level of a beatdown that you've applied to this monster. How much of an experience do you think that is going to be for someone who is just starting to play the game? Do you see where I'm getting with this? Because like, I'm probably not going to be affected by this because I believe that a large portion of my community is probably not going to engage with this stuff. Some of them might, but I'm hoping that they will be respectful enough if I ask, please don't join my lobbies if you've done this, because, it's a different experience. It's a completely different experience for a player that had to craft his own max potions, ancient potions, and traps and all of this stuff, and when he decides to use them in the game, it's a completely different thing to a player that has 9,999 traps and max potions and materials to craft more max potions. It's a completely different experience. The way in which you utilize your items, because they are somewhat limited. You're not just going to go into a hunt without even thinking about it. It's just like trap, monster barely moving. It's like, okay, friggin', what's it called? I use them so little nowadays, the pitfall trap, shock trap, and then gonna go into camp. Actually, you probably bring materials. I'm gonna craft another shock trap. Here's another shock trap. Craft another pitfall trap. Here's another pitfall trap. Go into camp. Get a bunch more. And here it is again. Like, monsters are barely gonna move. This is just assuming you just use consumables, because like I also gave the previous example, if you happen to do this with the materials as well, then you don't even need to grind. You're just killing the monsters, I guess, for fun. I don't know. To me, it's like the whole thing is part of the experience. Like, as I was going through the game in my live streams, you will have noticed it's like, okay, I'm going to stop now for a bit from hunting because we need to go in there and we need to get these materials for Rondine so that I can have the second submarine, or so that I can have the third submarine, so that I can start sending out my Palamutes and Palicos to get me more materials, to start supporting my, my progression through the game with additional consumables and all that stuff. And I understand people want to skip that. And like I said, you are completely entitled to skipping that if that's what you want to do. But in a way, I just wish that these mods that they create would also come with the setting that will allow me to install the mod and then just like, do not team me up. Do not put people that have done this in my lobbies. That's the only point that I'm bringing up. And I know what people are going to say, okay? People are going to say that, oh, you're so gatekeepy, Ruri. This is a puristy thing. Why do you have to be such a purist and blah, 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 and whatever the fuck else that people are going to bring up. Because at this point, I genuinely don't care. Because, like, as someone that is constantly trying to bring people into the Dark Souls community, into the Monster Hunter community, recently into the Final Fantasy XIV community, I find it interesting that the worst thing that people can do is call me a gatekeeper when, if anything, I'm doing the exact opposite by, providing guides and stuff for people to join these amazing games. There's I don't think that I'm a gatekeeper. You're free to think that. But what I do think is that I want to appreciate these video games with people that also want to appreciate these video games the way that they were designed to be experienced. And if that's a purist thing, if that's a gatekeepy thing, then sure, I guess I'm that. If that's an old man thing, then sure, I guess I'm that too. But that's just the way that I feel, because it's at the end of the day, it does affect me. Because if you did not have to work towards getting your consumables, you don't respect your consumables. You're gonna just squander them. And I've done hunts where I have set up max potions and all of this stuff, but even in those hunts, if you were paying attention, for instance, when I was hunting Super Rajang for the first time, you will have noticed that it's I would alternate between using max potions and mega potions. Why? Because mega potions are a ton more easy to craft than max potions. So I'd alternate between them. And maybe you're well, that's such a minor thing, Rurikhan. Maybe to you it's minor. What about me? Don't I count? What about the new player in Monster Hunter Rise, the one who started playing Monster Hunter Rise in the PC version? Are they not entitled to have their own experience from the ground up with a community that is playing the game like them? And people are oh, but this is not a competitive game, it doesn't matter. I don't care. It's still a game that was, meant to be experienced in a certain way. And like I said, if you want to do this in your own save file with a team of people that want to do the same thing, I want you to understand, because some people are going to bring up, well, but Rurikhan, speedrunners, they have... Listen, I completely understand. And if speedrunners want to do it, they should go right ahead and do it. And I don't blame them for it. I don't hold them in any less regard for it. And as a matter of fact, I love watching speedrun videos. I think they're interesting, and I tend to learn a lot from speedrun videos. And I understand why speedrunners do it. And again, I'm not throwing any shade towards anyone, because like I said, I enjoy that content. I think it's amazing. But speedrunners, traditionally, they're playing with other people. When they do play with other people, when they're not soloing, they're playing with other people that are also speedrunners, that also have the same objectives, that also know the game on a deeper level. The problem is, like I said, when you have people that pick up these mods and do these cheats, and they pair up with random lobbies or people who are new to the game, and they're just oh yeah, I have all these things, we just destroy everything. It's not remotely as interesting to play the game that way, and I think it makes for a much lesser experience for newcomers. And it also makes for a much lesser experience for me. If I happen to be paired with these people, it's just not as interesting. But, feel free to tell me if I'm gatekeepy or whatever. But also be aware of the fact that this doesn't end with Monster Hunter Rise, because Monster Hunter Sunbreak is going to be coming out in summer 2022. And when Sunbreak comes out, you still have that save file with 9,999 mega potions, 9,999 max potions, 9,999 of every single material in the game. It's all still there. It's I don't think you're gonna spend 9,999 mega potions between now and Sunbreak coming out. So you've essentially also negated the need for any consumable loop that might be present in Sunbreak. You don't need it. You don't need to grind anything in Sunbreak either, besides maybe killing a few monsters. To be honest, at that point, why even grind the monsters themselves? You could just go ahead and just get the armor and weapons from the very last boss from the beginning of the game, if that's even what suits the build for your weapon. Maybe that point is a little bit exaggerated just to drive the point home. I'm not sure, to be honest, at this point. I'm not sure who's going to do that and who's not going to do that. And like I said, if you want to do this, more power to you. Just try to be respectful of people that are trying to play the game as their first experience, that don't have these consumables, that maybe want to have a more organic experience. And I don't know. Let me know in the comment section if you feel like I'm just preaching. Oh, you're just being too preachy, Rurikhan. You're just being unfair. But that's just the way that I feel. And maybe that's an antiquated way of looking at things. But, yeah, that's pretty much where I stand on that. And again, I want to make it perfectly clear one last time, because I know I'm going to get comments on this. I don't hate anyone that's done this. As a matter of fact, one of the people that is, that was in that thread was Fighting Cowboy, who I consider to be a great friend. I really, really like Fighting Cowboy. I talk with him all the time. He's an amazing dude. But it's just, this is one topic where we just don't see eye to eye. And I think that's perfectly fine. But, yeah. That's my thoughts on that whole thing. Sorry if it was a little bit more long-winded than I intended. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong. Stay safe. Peace out.